I'm very honored to present Melinda French Getz.
I want to thank Sister Margaret Ann Mosier, the faculty, the staff, the board, but mostly the students. It is just great to be here and to hear your heartfelt warmth this morning for this campus. For me, it's great to just be back home. Now, I know my parents have not forgotten the first time I had to do a speech at Ursuline, and that's because it was at my commencement. And as you all know, we don't wear cap and gowns here. We wear the beautiful long dresses that we're all so excited about and the hats. Well, the year that it was my graduation, 1982, from Ursuline, somebody had the idea to switch the hats. This was the oh so lovely hat picked for my commencement here at Ursuline. And one thing, and they've never used them since, and one thing that I learned, if you can do a speech in this hat, which I did, you can give a speech anywhere. So I don't know if it's the same at Ursuline as when I was here, but we were always trying to harass the seniors when we were freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And the best kind of prank you could pull off was if you got a senior in a prank. So one of my best friends and I were in the science lab one day dissecting our frog, and we'd finished the project, and we had the leftover pieces involved, the kidney and the liver and the legs. So, and they were all soaked in formaldehyde, so we put all the extra bits in our pocket. We were all finished with our science experiment. And we headed to the cafeteria. And we had this wonderful idea. We knew it was a senior's turn to come into cafeteria, and we had that old Coke machine, where the cups drop down and the syrup and the water comes in and the ice. So we pulled the cups down, we put all our frog parts in, and we shoved it back up in the machine. And we made it down the hall far enough to not be the suspects in this case, but not far enough to not hear the screams, and it was great. When I was here, which seems to you all like a long time ago, I certainly never imagined that I would be in the position I'm in today or giving a building back to Ursuline. And yet there is so much that you're going to take away from this place that you're going to be able to offer the world. I have felt very passionately about getting girls and women involved in science, math, and technology. And we've all heard for so long the false notions about these gender differences in the sciences. And quite frankly, sometimes it just gets me mad. Specialists in math and science of all the disciplines should know that the opportunities have to be equal before you can judge whether the abilities are equal. And opportunities have never been equal for women and girls in the sciences. When I was early dating my husband Bill, we talked a lot about books, and that we both loved The Great Gatsby and Catcher in the Rye and Madame Bovary, all things I had studied here at Ursuline. Mrs. Bauer's gifts to Ursuline, her passion, her dedication, her brilliance, were bigger gifts than this building that I'm standing under today. In fact, they made this building possible. I went to Duke and I studied very long hours in the computer labs. I was surrounded by guys, all guys. I was literally the only woman. And that's because I realized then I was lucky enough to have had these great computer science classes as a woman in high school, and they just weren't offered to other students. So there I found myself at Duke. And when I was finished with Duke, I went to interview at Microsoft. And on my interview schedule were all males. When I was hired, the first class of MBAs, there were 10 of us, 9 men and me. And I wasn't surprised or put off by it. That's just the way it was. So you students, though, are going to find a lot more women in the sciences these days. But you're still going to find yourself a minority. When I first got to Microsoft in the first couple of years, I was actually pretty unhappy. In fact, I was contemplating whether I would stay or not, because it was a very aggressive, male-dominated culture. And at the orientation, one of the guys got in this very brash exchange with the vice president there, and I thought, wow, is this how you have to act to do well at this company? And I tried for a while. I tried adopting other people's styles, and because I thought that's how you would move up. And you know something? It's exhausting to borrow somebody else's style. When I was here at Ursuline, I did community service, much like you do here, and I worked just a few miles down the road at Walnut Hill Elementary School. And I saw what a classroom was like with a teacher with 30 kids, bright kids, but many didn't speak English, so I tutored math in the back to the kids who couldn't speak English. And I had a chance to see education from two sides, the front row at a great private school and the back row in a public setting. I got to see what a difference a little stretch of road makes between the haves and the have-nots. That was the lesson that I took from Ursuline that became the moral code for the philanthropy that I do today. When Bill and I started the foundation, we started with the premise, the very first principle is that all lives, all, have equal value. So every time I travel to see the work we're doing in the United States and in the developing world, I'm struck by what we have in common with the people that I meet. Now, often it's in very, very different circumstances. It can be a rural village in Malawi, where I was earlier this year. It can be a remote village in India. It can be in Benin. But there are so many things that unite us. I'm especially drawn to the mothers. They'll invite me into their home. They'll often sit down on two opposite sides of the mat. And I love talking with them because it's so easy to see how much they love their children, just as much as your parents love you. Let me tell you that being born in the United States is a sheer act of luck. So what is expected of us? We have to serve, of course. Success is nothing, absolutely nothing, I can tell you, unless you serve. It doesn't matter whether it's disease or poverty or environmental issues. Pick something you're passionate about, and you can solve it. If you put your mind to it, and we get our best minds working on the toughest problems, there's absolutely nothing we can't solve. And in fact, when I got in philanthropy, one of the quotes I came across that became my favorite quote that I use over and over again inside the doors of the foundation is from a cultural anthropologist, Margaret Mead. And she says, never, never underestimate the power of a committed group of individuals to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. From Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous definition of success. He ends with the line, "To know that even one life has breathed easier because we have lived, this is to have succeeded."